Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Last week on the Worry-Free Retirement, we talked about the serious side of money. Today, we are switching gears to talk about the fun side of money. So, as my late great mother-in-law used to say, let's have some fun.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement, and yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, fun-loving retirement planning specialist and full-time fiduciary, Tony Walker. And before we share with you the real purpose for all that hard work and stockpiling money for the future, let me introduce two fun-loving lads here in the Worry-Free Production Studios who make life easier for me each week. America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander, and Louisville, Kentucky's most laid-back graphics artist, Mr. Derek Hudson. Okay, just in case you missed last week's episode of the Worry-Free Retirement, we talked about the serious side of money and how and why you need to have in your corner someone who works in the field of retirement planning every day, a firm who is local and has helped more than 3,000 of our saver clients stay on top of their money so they can keep more of it working for them in retirement. A retirement planning firm who does its best by helping savers keep their fees down, taxes paid to Uncle Sam as low as possible, and more importantly, try to reduce risk so that you won't run out of money. So that's the serious side of Tony Walker Financial, but what about our role in helping savers have fun with their money? What is our take on that? Well, for more fun than one can stand, that's covered in my best-selling book, Live Well, Die Broke, a book that deals with our topic today: how to have fun with your money in retirement without the fear of one day running out. So let's make a hard right turn into the fun lane of life as I share with you examples of how we at Tony Walker Financial are helping our clients use and enjoy more of their hard-earned money before it's too late. And to kick it off, let us go back to this fellow and the question we all must ask ourselves one day. All right? Think about it. Here it is. If on your deathbed, what are you going to think about most? How much money you saved for the future, or how much money you enjoyed of what you saved? Well, if we're being honest here, you and I both know that on our deathbed, the answer to this inevitable question is having fun. Yet, as I meet with 20 to 30 savers each and every week, many of whom are not yet clients of Tony Walker Financial, but wish to see me for a second opinion, most of these folks are either afraid to spend their money in retirement or have no written game plan in place to keep more of their money in their pockets to spend. Now, there are several reasons for this, but these are the most that I see. Number one, savers are afraid to spend money in retirement because the financial world has a vested interest in them not spending it. Think about it. If you take your money from the financial institutions that hanging on to it, that is less money for them to make on your money. Should make sense. Number two, many savers fear spending this money and having fun with it because that is how they grew up. Watching parents and grandparents who came out of the Depression, those folks who were afraid to spend their money for fear of running out. Sort of like this young lady I featured in my 2004 documentary, Say Goodbye to Granddad's Retirement, as she remembers the tough times growing up as a child with no money at hand.
I remember waking up in the night and hearing my mother and father worried about expenses, and that stayed with me. I guess it stayed with me all my life because from then on, there was a feeling that you didn't want to ever do that. You didn't want to ever be in that situation.
By the way, later in this episode, I'm going to show you how we help savers overcome this fear of running out of money and how they can now enjoy more of it. All right, number 3 reason savers seem to be afraid to enjoy their money is because they have no written game plan to monitor their progress in retirement, something we do offer all of our clients at Tony Walker Financial. And then the 4th reason I think people are just hesitant to spend their money is because, quite frankly, most advisors are not trained in the art of retirement planning and instead tend to focus on just keep growing your money in the future, which is really the opposite of what your advisor should be doing for you in retirement. Remember, folks, the goal is not to keep trying to grow your money after you retire. The goal is to spend and enjoy it before it's too late. So how do we at Tony Walker Financial help savers pull off both? Well, as my late great mother-in-law Dee Dee used to say, let's have some fun. We'll be right back. In the financial world, advisors are often divided between 2 categories, money managers or annuity specialists. My question is, why not have both? At Tony Walker Financial, we specialize in investments and securing guaranteed income you can never outlive. You know, we're more than just annuities. So if you're retired or retiring soon, why don't you give us a call or log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. As I reflect back on time, more than 20 years ago, I wrote this, my first book, called Perfecting Your Walk in Retirement. Okay, now, due to the confusion of that book, what happened was I changed the title to The Worry-Free Retirement so that people could kind of understand what was going on. Incidentally, just released The Worry-Free Retirement Process, which is a great book and gives savers an indication of all the work we do and the details behind Tony Walker Financial and many of the forms we help our clients with. For a limited time, if you'd like a free copy of this book and you're interested in working with Tony Walker Financial, we're going to mail you this. Just email Gina at TonyWalkerFinancial.com, Gina at TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Give her your name, phone number, full mailing address, and tell her you want a copy of my latest book, The Worry-Free Retirement Process. Okay, funny how one of the 10 steps in the 10 steps outlined in this book, The Worry-Free Retirement, that was written some 20 years ago, is of all things to have fun. I know for me it has never really been about the money, but more so how to enjoy the money along the journey and how to do things for other people with this money. Speaking of my mother-in-law, Dee Dee, one of the chapters I devoted to her in my latest book, Live Well, Die Broke, is called Get Off Your Wallet, Dee Dee. The reason I wrote that is I recall an incident shortly after Dee Dee had lost her husband and was widowed and was afraid to spend money. One day, while sitting her watch over the fretting and fuming going on of a big screen TV she couldn't see, I said something to the effect, well, Dee Dee, why don't you just get a bigger screen TV so you can see it? And she complained and bemoaned that she didn't feel like she had the money, which I knew she did. And that's when I said, Dee Dee, get off your wallet and go buy it. Oh, another thing, speaking of people featured in my books and doing their best to enjoy the fruits of their labor, one of my best friends in high school by the name of Chuck, who along with his high school sweetheart and now wife Susan, came over to my dad's house back in high school as Chuck proudly showed off his new Chevy Chevette. When my dad asked Chuck whose car this was, Chuck, who at the time was yet to be married, proudly exclaimed that this car was both his and his fiancee's, to which my dad replied,
"Oh, isn't that nice? A wee car."
But now, over 40 years later, after apparently stumbling upon my TV show on our YouTube channel, my good friend Chuck, who now resides in another state, contacts me and wants to do business. And then, after moving some of his money over, some of this wee money, by the way, to us and putting it in our split IRA program, Chuck and Susan proceeded to travel all the way across the country on Route 66 until the end of the road. Pretty cool, don't you think? Interesting, the sign located above them at the end of the road of Route 66 kind of says it all, doesn't it? The point being, at some point, folks, we'll all come to the end of the road. And assuming you agree with that sentiment, then you will definitely want to stay tuned for our next segment, where I'm going to show you how we help savers do just that. how to have fun with your money without the fear of running out. And it's a very interesting situation. It's going to take two different couples retiring from the same organization, in this example, with the same exact amount of money, and one couple turning over their money to the large institution with the 1-800 number attached to it, and the other couple deciding to go a different route and turning the money over to Tony Walker Financial. Good stuff coming your way. Let us get out the whiteboard. I'll be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. On kind of a serious note here, let's turn to our Tony in the trenches. This one comes to us from Jane out of Louisville, who says the following. Tony, I hate to admit this, but as I grow older and am having more and more trouble keeping track of my money, and I'm thinking of turning over the control to one of my adult children. Is this a good thing to consider doing? And if I do so and let them have what's called a power of attorney, what could be the negative consequences of relinquishing control of this money over to them? You know, this is something I'm running into more and more, even with some of our clients as they age, or people who approach me. People are having more trouble and difficulty keeping track of money. They're trying to decide whether they should leave money to kids now or give them money now. It's a huge issue, and one that actually someone that I studied under years ago, well-known CPA and advisor Ed Slott, I was in his first Elite Advisor program back in 2004, covers in a recent article. Now, this is pretty scary stuff. Basically, what Mr. Slott talks about is a family by the name of the Gomez's. Now, this went to court. Apparently, they had a daughter who had, quote, conned them into taking large sums of money out of their individual retirement account, and they ended up doing that, and then she took the money and kind of ran with it. And what happened was this. Let's take a look at it. In the Gomez case, the daughter conned them into giving her roughly $725,000. Now, Derek's at the helm. Before you go to the next slide, Derek, here's the problem. Remember, folks, as we always talk about it, this 401k or IRA or 403b, assuming it's pre-tax, has not had any taxes paid on it. So in this example, they distribute $725,000 out to the daughter. I think the daughter ends up going in prison over this deal. She takes the money, but look at the consequences. Next slide, Derek. It says, despite the con, tax law required the Gomez's to pay the taxes due on the IRA. In other words, they were still left holding the bag. All of this kind of reminds me of what the late, great Mark Twain said about family and money. You never know someone until you share an inheritance with them. All right, didn't mean to get too serious there and mess up your day. So let's get back to trying to have some fun. So whether it's taking time to enjoy traveling across the land on Route 66, plunking down a load of cash to buy the Mustang of your dreams, sharing your retirement adventures on a YouTube channel, and yes, the thrill of traveling to Alaska and stumbling across a mama bear and her cubs, I think we would all agree that while we need to be serious with our money in retirement, the main thing we must do is also use and enjoy and have fun with this money. And it's not just having fun for ourselves, but the joy in creating memories for others, like this disc golf course in Bowling Green, Kentucky that Tony Walker Financial proudly sponsors. While, as you know, I'm a ball golf kind of guy, my oldest son Philip is more into disc golf. And seeing as though I have noticed the sport growing, I decided to get off my wallet and provide new baskets at Buchanan Park in Bowling Green so that my son and others might enjoy a small part of the fruits of my labor. In fact, on one of the holes I recorded this shot from Philip. Check it out.
and the crowd goes wild.
So to kind of close out this particular segment, I thought I would go to the whiteboard, but first, again, we're trying to determine which person would you rather be in this example I'm going to show, couple A or couple B. And the reason I'm using $1 million is because of this article here, and if you'll put this up full screen, this was a dandy. It says, workers fear they may not save the $1 million they need for a comfortable retirement. I guess my question is, who says you need $1 million for a comfortable retirement? Which, I guess if you lived in Manhattan, New York, that probably is a pretty accurate statement. But what about the average person I meet with in Kentucky and Indiana? Do these folks, most of them, have millions of dollars lying around in a 401k to live off of? Well, certainly some people I meet have $1 million or more in retirement accounts. But listen, most people do not. So let's look at why the financial world is saying this and why I needed to cover this. I mean, where did this $1 million figure come from? And of course, it came from the financial world. Again, what the financial world's approach is they would rather work with people with a lot of money, and they would rather make sure that people don't spend this money. You see, in our industry, including yours truly, especially under our Charles Schwab platform, where we get an annual recurring fee to manage your money, the more money you leave with the financial world and the less you spend and enjoy of it, well, the more they make. And the problem is the way they get you to leave that money with them is generally through fear. Fear of going into a nursing home one day, fear of inflation eating away at the dollar bill, fear of living too long, and fear of not leaving anything to your family and loved ones when you pass away. So what I'm going to do a stark comparison and contrast here. We're going to imagine couple A is kind of, we'll just call it, this is the financial world, okay? This is their approach, what I'm about to show you. Why they think you need this $1 million to comfortably retire. And we're going to assume that person or couple B, and we'll just call this the live well, die broke philosophy of Tony Walker Financial, okay, that same couple comes to me, and they too have $1 million to invest. So where all this begins to change between Tony Walker Financial with the Live Well, Die Broke philosophy, which again in my book I cover this, it simply means you can't take it with you, and also exposes the fact that over the years I've been doing retirement planning so long, folks. Again, we have almost 3,000 clients that are in the 70-year-old range, anywhere from 60 to 80. So I see this play out every day, and most of these folks, here's the mistake they make, they wait way too long to spend and enjoy their money. So what is the difference between our approach and the financial world that basically says, no, don't you spend this money, because someday, one day, whenever that day is, you might just need it. So let's imagine, what is it they kind of go by? Well, the old rule of thumb they go by is something called the 4% rule. Now, this rule on the surface does make some sense. In other words, if you have $1 million, depending on your investments, you can take out 4% a year. So let's just say it kind of flatlines. That means you could take out $40,000 a year, and assuming the accounts just keep growing, which there may not if you're taking out $40,000 a year, but as the accounts keep growing, you keep taking out the 4%, and that's the way you keep up with inflation, and your principal of $1 million is protected. But put this graph up here. Now, this is one of my favorite graphics. But what if the market tanks like it did back in 2008 or like it did a couple of years ago, and you're drawing money out? Look how much that account could drop. So, of course, this shows $300,000 a year, but the numbers still shake out just the same. In other words, if the market is going down and you're taking out 4% when it goes down under the 4% rule, you actually are going to take less. Let's say this thing does crash and it's down to $700,000. Well, if you're only taking out 4%, that's only $28,000 a year, meaning you just took a haircut in your income, which makes no sense whatsoever. But what do we do at Tony Walker Financial? Through our proprietary split IRA concept, CS stands for Charles Schwab, and ANN stands for annuities, which we can do multiple annuities here. But what we do is we're going to divide that $1 million up, and we want to spend and enjoy this money during what we call halftime, or at least in the first part of what we call the second half of life, which usually begins around age 70. Because let's face it, folks, and again, I've seen this play out many times, this age range of around 60 to about 73, 75 is when most savers can thoroughly enjoy this money. So we intentionally, in this case, we don't care. We're going to pour out 40 to maybe 50,000. Why not 50,000? And we intentionally want this bucket to be used and enjoyed during this period of time, which that bucket could potentially be drained in let's say a 5 to 15 year period of time, just depending on how we set up the game plan. In fact, Aaron, put up full screen our game plan. This is what we do to monitor your progress. Folks, this is a retirement planning game plan. This is not a retirement calculator or spreadsheet. You can't rely on those because changes will come and different things will come up during retirement. And that's why you need a trained retirement specialist with this proprietary software to monitor your progress. But then, as people move through the second half of life, an annuity or possibly several annuities, depending on what we're going to do, that's when we'll kick in, that's right, the trademark concept we use called mailbox money. So what is the mailbox money? Well, again, as I see people's lives play out, as you get into those later years, as you grow a little older, we're going to make sure that you receive an income guaranteed for the rest of your life. So maybe we've used half of that money up. The $500,000 has been gone. You've spent and enjoyed it. The other annuity's been growing all this time, and then we kick in income. I'm just using numbers here just to give you an example. And what the insurance company issuing that annuity says, okay, when we start income, that particular annuity on a guaranteed basis, guaranteed, will pay you $40,000 a year for the rest of your life. Now, that's the rest of your life. So even if you live to age 90 or 95 or 100, you cannot run out of money, something that the financial world, without these annuities, cannot guarantee. So maybe that's you sitting there saying, Tony, well, I don't even have $1 million. What is your all's minimum to work with at Tony Walker Financial? Well, a minimum account size to work with Tony Walker Financial is $50,000. So here's what I would say. If you're retired, retiring soon, or maybe you have an old 401k languishing somewhere and you're taking too much risk and you don't know what to do with it, and you have at least $50,000 to invest, do this right now. Take advantage of something we call the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call, and here's how this works. You'll log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. You're going to click on that little red box. We will confidentially set up a time where myself or one of our highly trained fiduciaries will speak to you by phone for 5 to 10 minutes. Then if it warrants, if it looks like we can be of help, we're going to set up an in-person appointment. That's right, the owner of the company, to meet with you in person at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. So don't delay. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call the toll-free number on your screen. Well, we've got an interesting segment to cover about sowing and reaping, and one that plants and another that waters. The Bible segment I've got planned is a good one coming up, but first I got to get me a cup of coffee. Stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Tired of the roller coaster ride of the stock market? Let Tony Walker show you how to smooth out the ride with your money. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started.
Did you know that you can watch the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money anytime you want? The show's called The WorryFree Retirement. It's hosted by Tony Walker and it's available on YouTube. All you got to do is go to youtube.com and right there in the search bar, type in Tony Walker Financial and you'll see Tony's smiling face. Click on that and you're going to find all types of video content. Again, that's youtube.com, Tony Walker Financial.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement with the money missionary himself, Tony Walker.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever sat around and wondered how you got to this point in life? Have you ever truly reflected on the people in your life that helped get you to the place you are today? Maybe it was your parents, a coworker, a teacher, a mentor, a coach, others who, well, shall we say, brought us to the dance. In other words, if we are honest with ourselves, we all must acknowledge that it has been someone else who was responsible, in many cases, for our successes and the things we now enjoy. Recently, Tony Walker Financial hosted 2 of our 4 scheduled client appreciation events this year. The first event included more than 350 clients cruising up and down the Ohio River on the Belle of Louisville. The second, some 250 clients who attended a nice dinner and tour at the Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky, where we also took time to congratulate one of our clients who recently turned 101 years of age. And yet still, we're all having fun. One might rightly ask, why would Tony Walker Financial go to all this trouble and expense to host such events? For several reasons. First, we want our clients to know how much we appreciate their business. Second, we want them to have fun together by celebrating our working relationship together. And most importantly, number three, we want them to acknowledge, and for us to acknowledge back to them, how important they are to us and thank them for bringing us to the dance. In fact, there would not be a Tony Walker Financial without our clients, and we want to take the time to thank them. I guess the reason for my attitude of thanksgiving for others bringing me to the dance goes back to my lower middle class background as a kid growing up in the 60s, which taught me to appreciate what you have and to always be thankful for others, especially those who today trust Tony Walker Financial with their life savings. You know, the Bible speaks to this notion of always being thankful and remembering who brought you to the dance. Check it out in Deuteronomy 6:11 and 12, where God's Word reminds His people of the following. With houses full of every good thing with which you did not fill them, with wells that you did not dig, and with vineyards and olive groves that you did not plant, and when you eat and are satisfied, be careful not to forget the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. So how do we strike this balance of being serious about our money while at the same time having fun along the way? In my opinion, it's all about perspective. A perspective of being thankful for what we must enjoy now, and in the end, remembering who brought us to the dance, and without them, well, we probably wouldn't be able to enjoy the things we enjoy. And that, my friend, is some good news you and I can remember to always take to the bank. Amen? Well, how about you? Are you working with an advisor who understands both the serious side of money and also how to use and enjoy this money that you've worked so hard to create? Well, if not, my question is, why not? My name is Tony Walker, and for nearly 40 years, I've been helping savers set up a written game plan to do both, to take seriously the best ways to protect their money for the future, while at the same time giving them permission to spend and enjoy this money they've worked so hard to save. And we have a free offer that you're going to want to really take advantage of. We call it the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. And here's how easy it is to get started learning more about our operation. Simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. You're going to see that little red box and just click it. And then that's going to arrange for you and I to have a 10-minute phone call to see what's going on in your world and how we might be of help. So do it now. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or simply call the toll-free number on your screen. Well, to close out our show, as my late great mother-in-law Dee Dee used to say, we're going to have a little fun, so let's roll it, Derek.